Hello, 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 and welcome to this week's episode of Type 1 Thursday. I am super happy that you're here because this week I have another question from the audience, and it's a personal one-ish. Well, not, I don't want to get your hopes up. It's not that bad. It's actually quite a normal question, but it is a more personal natured one. So I'm looking forward to answering it because this person writes, how often do you have a real low or high blood sugar, that is, that you need to correct? Is it rare or is it part of everyday life? And I thought this question was very, very interesting. I guess I'm not that open, perhaps, with my blood sugar levels online because I frankly don't think it's very interesting to share them. But maybe if you want me to, I could share more of my day-to-day values. If you do, please leave me a comment so that I know, because I cannot read your thoughts out there. So high and low blood sugars are, of course, part of living with type 1 diabetes, and no one can deny that. But the frequency of them can greatly and amazingly be influenced by different lifestyle factors. For me, for example, low carb has really helped to eliminate most highs and lows, so I don't get those extreme highs followed by extreme lows, because I simply follow the rule of small numbers, so I don't have that much insulin in my body in one go. So that I have, so that I can get those quick drops. And I also don't eat that much sugar so that I get, the high highs. So there you go. Lifestyle factors you can do a lot with. And it's also a question of definition, I find. Definition for me is low is below 3.2 millimoles, 3.5 millimoles, which is about, I have to check, 65 milligrams per deciliter for you who use that. And my highs are already around 6.5 or 117, 120 milligrams. So it's really a question of definition, like where, do you mean these like super highs that are like 400s and then, down to 20, or then 20 to 1 point something? Or do you mean the sort of gradual, like just on the verge kind of sugar surfing kind of highs and lows? Because that is, it differs from person to person. But the number one thing that I would advise people who are maybe in this situation to do is to really check your basal settings. Whether you are on a long-acting insulin or an insulin pump with a basal setting, make sure that those dosages are correct, because that can save you a lot of trouble, and that is something that I do on myself as well, and I make sure that my basal settings are correct as they can be, because there are, of course, things that life happens and things go up the wall sometimes. But if you want me to do a video about how to basal test properly, then also let me know in a comment so that I know. I still can't read your minds, not even in the past couple of minutes. I haven't learned that. So please let me know what you would like to see from me. If your basal insulin, if your basal dosage is correctly set, then you also need less corrections to get the sort of result that you need. So if you are too low or borderline too low, for example, let's have that as an example, and your basal isn't too high, so it won't keep going down much further, it is the right setting for you, then you only need very little carbs to get you back up into range, to a healthy, safe range. Same with highs. Like if you are borderline high, you don't need that much more insulin to get yourself into a safe, healthy range again, because your basal insulin is correctly set. What I do is that I correct before there is a high or a low. Of course, when I can, and things like sleep, illness, travel, stress, and things like this, too much work, guilty as charged, can of course make this a little bit trickier and hinder me from keeping that sort of control. But whenever I can, I do react before the low is a fact or the high is a fact. Managing this these things before it's a fact. Really, I cannot say enough that a CGM, a continuous glucose monitoring system, really is worth its weight. Well, they're not very heavy. It really is worth its value in gold because they're quite expensive. They're small but expensive things. So that can be worth absolute gold if you are so that you can react before there's a high or there's a low. These things are, of course, not exact. I don't know of CGM system that is absolutely exact, and especially when my goal range is about this tiny. It is very annoying that it is most often 1 to 3 millimoles off, which is 20 to 60 points in milligram per deciliter off, and that is very annoying. So it's not really exact, but it is invaluable to see the trends, where you're trending. So if you're steady and start to trend downwards, then you can already treat. You can already start treating so that you need a lot less and the hypo doesn't become a fact. Or if you see that you're trending upwards, you can play with either if you're on a pump, temp basal settings, or wait it out and see what happens, or correct with insulin. So really, for the trends, the CGM is fantastic, and I could not recommend it more for everyone to have that. But of course, what also counts, it's not only that you react in time, but actually, this got complicated. Reacting in time, let's start over. Reacting in time actually also helps your standard deviation, of course, of blood sugar, which will help your A1C, and of course also, or standard deviation and time in range, which is what reacting in time will help, will also help your A1C. So those three together, that little trifecta, is a fantastic measurement, I guess, of health, or the most exact one we have for diabetes, I guess. And that also is helped by reacting in time, so that you don't go high and don't go low, but you can react before it is a thing. In one sentence, doing it this way, before a high becomes a high or a low becomes a low, it makes them super rare. It actually makes them more rare than it would be if I, for example, added to my lifestyle, for me, I'm not going to talk for anyone else, but for me, if I added a ton of sugar and the recommended amount of carbs, for example, then I would have much more highs, and I would have much more lows, because I would have to fight the carbs as well as my body with the stress, work, illnesses, all of these things that, anyways, the 45 things that anyways influence your blood sugar. I don't feel the need of adding carbs to that. I will be adding, when I publish this on my blog, probably tomorrow, I will add a CGM graph from just this morning for the past 24 hours then, so that you can see what I mean. It makes a very nice illustration. Thank you so much for watching. I want to hear from you. Do you have highs and lows often that you need to react to, or are they rather rare for you as well? Let me know in a comment. I'll be happy to chat with you there. Until next time.